back again with a great dynamic show again on New 810 News Media Group. You know, we always ask you all to like, share, and subscribe to 810 News Media Group. We like to do that and have you out there. And please send your donations to us via Cash App, $ 810 News Media Group. We like you to support independent podcast and independent radio. Today I have a very special guest with me, my daughter, one of the Josie crew. I always have to call us. I have to put us now underneath the umbrella because there's so many. I can't just say under the Audrey crew. I have to say under the Josie crew, which is my mother, because she has so many dynamic branches off of her through all of her daughters and all of her sons and all of her grandchildren and now on to her great grandchildren. So we have so many different dynamics, and even her nieces and nephews. I have to say that much too. But right now, I do have my daughter, Audrey Young. She have a dynamic group, and if you never worked with her before, she has a program that's under a group called Lodestar. That's the name of her company, and they do a lot of environmental justice, soil sampling, and other things. So without further ado, I'm going to allow her to get a chance to talk to you a little bit about her program, and at some point in time, another will tell you how you can get involved in her program. So, Ajane, I'm going to let you take the floor, and I'm going to just mute mine so that way I'm not interrupting you. All right.
Okay, thanks, Vaughn. Yeah, feel free to jump in if you have any questions or anything. But yeah, thanks for the introduction, Ma. I'm Ajane Young, Flintstone, born and raised, and I started Lodestar LLC, which is my company because I have a background in education, and something I'm really passionate about is making educational opportunities for people in the city of Flint and beyond, but opportunities that are really meaningful. And so my current program is a science program that works in the realm of environmental justice. And so currently I'm offering a internship for youth 13 to 19, where basically we give youth an opportunity to come out and do some hands-on science learning, but also learn a little bit about the city of Flint, and explore a lot of themes around environmental justice. So we have the youth come together and they collect both soil and air quality samples from various places around the city of Flint. And then we teach them how to use the equipment that any lab scientist would use to test for levels of contamination, heavy metals in the soil. And they also learn how to read the air quality monitors and how to make sense of data when PM 2.5 is high versus PM 10. So they get an opportunity to be involved in the science piece, but then we try to take it a step further. Where after they've collected their samples and they've analyzed them, they then have to not only make sense of that data, but think about a way to share that information out with their community. And so that could be in a variety of ways. We've had students create TikTok videos to raise awareness around soil contamination markers for the EPA, and then raise a desire for them to lower those standards so that there's more intervention for soil pollution around the country. We've had youth create works of art and paintings that have been really inspirational around what they learn in the internship. We've also had students do presentations and go and present at the National Geographic conference in Chicago and in California. And so it's truly a blessing, I think, to be able to work with like such amazing young people from Flint. I always get such great students each time we do this program, and I feel like I learn something new and they learn something new. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really enjoyable experience. We try to make the internship valuable for everyone who comes. We do pay the students for their time because they are collecting data and collecting soil samples. And actually, the data that they do collect contributes to a map where youth in Massachusetts and in California, and then of course in Flint, Michigan, are all putting their data into one place. And so we're able to create heat maps and analyze and see where is some of that pollution happening, a little bit across the country. And so, yeah, so I'm super excited to talk a little bit more about the program, and to be here and to share that with y'all. We currently have our summer programs getting ready to start in July, so coming up on it pretty soon. And so, yeah, I want to share the registration information. If you know anyone, or if you are interested yourself, I encourage you to check us out at lodestaredu.org, where you can find out a little bit more about our program and also get registered if you're interested.
Great, 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 great. I was a part of her program, and I helped out last year some, and it was very interesting. It was very intense a little bit. One of the aspects that I really did enjoy with doing that was when you had the mock city council.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to talk a little bit about how you incorporate the educational piece with them, because I know they learn the scientific stuff like how to use the equipment. They learn that, but I want you to incorporate and talk about how you made them do the research. How they had to go out and research different things, because I think we did the asphalt company. Like,
Mm-hmm.
some of us had to represent, like we were on the asphalt company's board, or different, or Eagle, or different things like that. So I want you to talk a little bit about that part of the program too.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of my tenets for Lodestar and any of the work that we do is that the it's meaningful and that it's actionable, right? Like, oftentimes academic subjects get disconnected, right, from what we do in our daily lives. And so you learn something in a science classroom in 10th, 11th grade, and then you go about life and you don't really think about or integrate those things into your daily life anymore. And so we lose that information, we forget it, right? But I'm really about trying to not only learn and master those academic skills and information, but also to be able to apply it. And so what you were talking about, Ma, is that Mock City Council, which is a part of the program, is one activity we do, um, where we have the youth. Everyone has a role to play, and we pretend that we're in a city council meeting, and we deal with real problems. So they'll get an example from a local example, which is the one you witnessed, or they'll see examples of problems and challenges around environmental justice issues that have come up, in different cities. And so they are responsible for learning about what entities are involved in that, right? From Eagle, who is the Michigan EPA arm, or they might learn about the city council in their area, or a school board, or depending on where the problem is placed. And then they all have different roles to play, and have to bring evidence in order to back why they want to support or not support whatever initiative is on the table, for that meeting. And so I think it's a really good opportunity for youth to practice and hone in on some of those activism skills, right? Like, they're learning how to talk about a problem that they're passionate about. They're learning how to pull evidence together to be able to support others in understanding the problem and why they think a certain intervention or a certain tactic should be taken to address the issue. And it's really just kind of the framing the justice piece, right, of our environmental justice program, because we really want youth to be able to walk away from it not just understanding where there's contamination and pollution, but also what they can do about it. And so that things like that city council, the mock city council meeting, or I talked about, like, the final projects that they do, like the TikTok video. I'm showing my age. The TikTok video and the presentations are all different forms of youth activism, and so we help them kind of explore the different ways that they can make their voice heard. I think we lost your sound.
Okay, nope, nope,
Oh,
I'm here. I keep muting it because I don't want to be like, yeah, that's right, that's right. I don't want to be standing in the background and to be interrupted of
oh no, you're fine.
when you're talking. So I like to try to mute and give you the clear way, give the guest a clear way to talk about it. So some of the other aspects that I've had questioning from the community when I started talking, and I was of course passing out your cards and your flyers. Some on Juneteenth, and I have been around. We're gonna be out this week. I'll be passing out some more today, trying to get people just aware of what's going on and what they can do. A couple of the churches that I have around here, I'll be going to some of them because they have youth programs. They may have some people who might be interested in actually being a part of that. But it was those days, we went out, like you say, we went to different sites and we dug and we got soil up and then you took it back and you was able to look. So talk about what is it that they're going to be looking for in the soil, because I had somebody say to me, yeah, I can't grow anything in my yard. They don't understand it's not that kind of a soil sampling. So I kind of tried to explain it to the lady a little bit, but then I also gave her the card and said, call you because you could give a clear explanation for what it is that's going on. So I just want you to say that and tell them a little bit about what it is that you'll be looking for in the soil.
Yeah, sorry, I muted because my dog is waking up and he's starting to whine in the background. Um, but yeah, that's a really good question. I think I do get that a lot where folks ask me like the types of things that we're sampling for. And so in the soil specifically, we have youth looking for heavy metals, so things like lead and arsenic, copper, and in California, who are doing similar programs, they've been finding traces like the half-life of uranium, which is thorium, which may like indicate that there was some radiation at some point in time in the soil there. And we teach youth how to do these things safely, but they also learn these protocols and learn how easy it is to teach others to do it. So to answer the question around like the soil sampling, like um, we would like to see the whole community be able to collect samples from their own yards, from local parks, from places where they have the ability to do so, and turn those in, because it helps us to better map and understand where the pollution might be in Flint. And it also creates a peace of mind when you know that you don't have high levels of lead and arsenic in your soil. But we don't test for nutrients, which may be playing a role in why someone can't grow things in their yard. Could also be related to like the wetness of their soil, and if they have more clay or sand. And there's a number of factors that impact how you can grow things in a garden. But we only test for the heavy metals, and so there, I believe that MSU 4H or so that like the place downtown, I think that they actually do like nutrient soil testing for like if you are trying to figure out how to best grow certain types of food or something in your yard. I don't have a contact for that, but I believe that they do that type of work. And so we are not looking at nutrients, we're looking for contamination and pollution. Because really, like, our focus is on the safety of the soil. So we oftentimes are testing a lot around local parks and in people's yards, because when you come in contact with the soil, then you are opening yourself up to being exposed to like the lead dust or the arsenic dust, and over time that can build up in your system. And so yeah, so we don't test, unfortunately, for the nutrients of the soil. We only test for the heavy metals.
Okay, gotcha. I know we had a conversation with Ashley Capital
Mm-hmm.
here recently. They had an open forum. Actually, I will forward to you their well, it was just a financial report that they had actually given to me because I asked them, but at least you'll have their email address if you have any questions. I think you have been in contact with Ashley Capital though before, right?
Yeah, we actually we have talked with the Racer Trust, who is the steward of the Buick City Brownfield. Um, and one of the things we had been noticing was that our soil samples, a lot of the higher levels of pollution were coming from the neighborhood nearby. And so we asked them for an opportunity to test the soil at the brownfield. And so they had done some remediation over it's really hard for me to describe where it is because I always forget that street name, but kind of like it's so there's industrial and then the one that kind of goes under 475, that side street. I think it's a
Is it
guy's name.
Stewart?
No,
It's
no, no.
Stewart
It's
up here.
closer to Dort Highway.
Oh, that little side street that goes right along. So you talking about James P. Cole or
Yeah, yeah,
James P.
James
Cole? I
Cole.
think it is.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. I was like, I always forget the name of that street. But yeah, there was a lot there where they had done some remediation, and so they allowed us to collect samples from there, and we were able to get kind of some topsoil from a few other locations, not where they're currently building. Or have they finished that building? I know there's. I think I moved right as they might have been wrapping it up right there off of
Yeah.
Saginaw Street.
Yeah, last that I knew, they didn't have anything there.
Uh-oh, you froze.
I Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. So pretty much they had gotten. I don't believe they have any tenants. The last that I knew, that was several weeks ago. They didn't have any tenants. But like I said, it was an open forum, and I asked him. My question to him was this: when GM filed bankruptcy and pulled out, and Racer Trust came in,
Mm-hmm.
why was Racer Trust? They said the only thing they had to do was legally was contain the contaminants. So they left those concrete slabs down there on the ground to be able to contain it. But however, if Ashley Capital want to build, they're gonna have to take those concrete slabs up and redo around there, which means now you're gonna have open air for the contaminant that was there already. Is
Mm-hmm.
not gonna be contained. They asked the city, and the city gave them $72 million to help with the cleanup, which I said it was not fair to the residents here, which is what I'm going to send you the financial report that he sent me and told me where all of the funding came from. And I said it's not fair to us as the citizens of Flint that we pay and suffer the cost of what General Motors did not do and what Racer Trust did not do. So now they're making us, it's like we're double taxed. And he sent me a report of the financials and everything. I could send it to you, and I'm gonna send it also to Mickey. But it was interesting. But I did have that was the guy at actually at Ashley Capital, because the question has come up now, the Oak Park. That's a lot of fight over them selling Oak Park. That was a part of the Ashley Capital purchase,
Mm-hmm.
and the city, that was the initial intent was that property do not be is not to be sold off. It's only supposed to be used as a park. It's the oldest park, established park in Flint. It's the oldest park. Well, the people who owned it, which was I think it was believe it was the Durants that owned it, didn't step up and say, "Hey, we want the property back," because it was donated. So the city said, "Well, we can sell it." That was in 1980 in the 80s when they sold. I think 84 or something, and they voted on it. Here it is. We're 30 years late, 40 years later,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're talking about selling it. So it's a lot that's going on with that in particular. But my concern too, like I say again, at that site is if they get ready to build down there, are they going to be really able to contain all of the contaminants? It's going to be airborne. But we already know a lot of the stuff is already airborne that already contaminated properties that's close to the Buick City site. I spoke that and said that to them, the Ashley Capital people. I said, well, it's already contaminated around there. You could check the soils. It's already contaminated. He didn't know what to say because he really didn't know himself. So, some of these different things, like I don't know if they're going to be doing another town hall meeting again. I'm going to try to look to see if Ashley Capital decide to do one. Because if they do, I may go to that one again. But like I said, I did receive that email, and I'll forward that to you where the financials came from for them just to even clean up the site. Now it's going to cost the citizens of Flint additional funding.
Yeah.
And and it's unfortunate city council voted for them to have that $72 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think like programs like what I'm doing is so important, right? Because if people in the community don't understand how lead gets resuspended in the air, if they, if you're not aware of where there are already these like hotbeds of contamination and how that can expand, and spread out, and how that contamination can come into your household and come into like local parks and things like that, then how do you know, right, to ask those kinds of questions at a town hall meeting? How do you become aware enough of what problems are potentially there and what harms could happen to be able to evaluate, like, does it make sense to give them this additional money? Is it for overall protecting the people of the city, or is it causing more harm, right? And in the program we talk about that too, right? Trying to balance the people, the profit, and the planet, right? Like, thinking through what things are people willing to let one outweigh the other, right? And say that, the benefit to this thing outweighs the cost to that. And I mean, I think it's an important part of the conversation. And like, I feel like I do programs like this and I do this kind of work because I was raised that way, right? Like, that's how I grew up, is always being out in the community, always being involved, and trying to be as aware as I can of what is going on around me, right? And sometimes when people hear environmental justice, or they think about environmentalism, they think that it's, out in a wetland somewhere or out in the wilderness. But like, the environment is what we live in. So whether you live in a city, surrounded by concrete, or you live out in the suburbs, or you live out in a rural area, no matter where you are, that is a part of your environment. And all those things are interconnected, right? Like, none of us live completely in a bubble. Like, when you think about the wildfires in Canada, right, and how that impacted the air quality in Flint last summer. Like, Canada's not its own bubble just because, we've drawn a border and said that's another country over there, right? It still impacts where we live. And so I think it is really, really crucial and important to be a part of those conversations, to get out and to get involved, and to make your voice heard. And that's what I'm really trying to get these youth to do, right? Is to understand what the problems are, understand scientifically, right? Like, how do we get to a place where we have soil pollution, and how can it impact our bodies and the places that we live? But then also, like, what are the laws and the systems around that can sometimes be a hindrance to cleaning those things up, at times can be supportive of doing that. And then how do they make sense of that and apply it to their lives so that they can make good decisions for themselves and for their communities? Because, if you knowledge is power, right? I truly believe that. So the more informed we can be, the more we can understand what's going on around us, the more opportunities we have to ask the right questions and to advocate for the things we feel are right. Uh-oh, did you freeze again? Sorry, I got on a soapbox for a second.
Oh, she muted. Okay, she
Okay,
back.
there I go. Okay, I'm muted. But you know what? I'm just gonna tell you, we haven't. As I'm sitting here talking to you, if I freeze up or something like that, like I couldn't get it to unmute. My tablet was doing something crazy. We talking on it. I just got a text message saying that we have network problems over here in my area. So there was a point in time where I could hear you talking. I had to log out and go back in and I was thinking it was on your look, Mickey. I was thinking it was on your end. I was thinking it was you. I was like, Mickey got us messed up a little bit, but it was me. So I'm glad that they did send me a text message. So hopefully I won't actually lose a connection. If I do, I'll just log back in again. And that happens. We got so much stuff going on here, around here. Um, what was I gonna ask? Mickey, you got some questions for and everything? Because especially some of the stuff with the Ashley Capital, that's been a big hot topic here in Flint. It really have been. Yeah.
No, you had asked her that because I was going to ask, but when she said that they was what they was checking for, because I believe our soil need to be checked here.
Yeah.
Right. And he's not even inside the city limits. But you know that when we had the water problem, when it first started initially, there was people outside of the city that had well water that had lead in their water too. And it was crazy because some of them like out by Genesee Valley and stuff like that, they're not inside the city limits, right? But it was people over there that had problems with their water and had to get whole house filtration systems, just like the people inside the city. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so that was kind of crazy. But I know you have done, not only have you done just this with the soil, you've done some other stuff too, right?
So we've also done air quality testing. So
Mhm.
we weren't doing that every year in the internship. We did it the first year, and then we did it last year.
Mhm.
Um, and so part of the reason why we stopped doing it is we really wanted to focus in on the soil sampling piece, and we wanted to make sure that we were hitting that in a more robust way. But like I said, my program is very responsive and like trying to do things that are relevant and important for
Mhm.
youth who are participating. And so when the air quality and the wildfires last summer kind of sparked us to bring that piece back, and so we'll be doing that again. And we've had a little bit of time to build out a couple more sessions to talk about indoor versus outdoor air quality. And we looked at the building of the asphalt plant out in on the north side of Flint.
Mhm.
Like we looked at that as an issue, and we went out and talked to some of the residents out in the neighborhoods out there. And I think it's really important for us to come together as a community, right? Like we have the youth who go out in our program and they collect soil samples, and I feel like they regularly surprise me with the amount of soil samples that they're able to collect in a short amount of time. I mean, I've had a group of just 5 or 6 youth be able to collect over 100 soil samples, over the course of a few-week program. And so it's really awesome to see them get out there and and be hard workers, and to be able to like understand that it's important what they're doing, right? To see when they have a sense of connection to it, because they know that that's corner store over there, and so they want to know what the soil is like. They see their little brothers and sisters playing in that park, and so they want to know if it's safe. um and so I would encourage all people to connect with us on the website, for to understand and to learn how to collect your own soil sampling, because the even though the youth can collect a lot of it, it is always better to have more, right? And so that we can get a more comprehensive map of where things are across the city. So I know like a lot right now, a lot of our data is concentrated honestly to places that I'm more familiar with, right? Like I being over off of industrial and near Buick City, I knew that that was there. That was a site of interest for me, and that's why we first started sampling there. We had some literature. There were some folks who, probably a little over a decade ago now, had thought about Forest Park, Max Brandon Park,
Mhm. Mhm.
as potentially having high levels of pollution. So we went over there and we took some samples. All the youth who participate, they are required to bring in at least one soil sample from home, in each program, and so they collect from their neighborhood. So wherever they're living at, we get small samples here and there. But I like if I can take this time to do a call to action for the people of the city of Flint, or in the neighborhoods around it, right? Like one of the things we talk about with the youth is like the EPA only has so many financial resources, right? Like there should be regular monitoring of the air quality, of soil quality, of water quality, because those are things we need to live and be safe, right? Um,
Mhm.
but because like their funds are not infinite, they aren't going to pay people regularly to come out and do that kind of work. And so the responsibility, like you said, the responsibility often falls on the people who are most impacted by it, right? To be able to do something about it. And this is something that really anyone can do as long as you follow the safety protocols that we have in place, wearing a mask and gloves when you're collecting your soil sample. You should be fine even if there is contamination there. um, but collect those samples and send them into us, so that we can get a better understanding and we can add those data points to the map. One thing I have to do on my website is get the link added in there, so folks can see the map that we have so far. I have to work with my web person to get that together because I am not quite that tech savvy.
Okay.
But I'm very excited to be able to share that. And also, like, the youth in the program have a requirement to do some sort of activism at the end of it, right? Whether that's writing a letter, doing TikTok videos, going to presenting at a conference, any of those things, where they're raising awareness about what they're learning, and what they're seeing in their data. Um, if there are, neighborhood groups or church groups or anyone who would, I'd love to have the young people come out and speak to, your congregation or to your members, and talk a little bit more in depth about what they're learning and what they're doing, and how that might be relevant and impactful to those specific groups.
Yep. And I know you had some people who were repeaters. They came back and did it several times because they really enjoyed it. They found ways to earn a few extra dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That's my website there, Mickey. Yep. I did want to put that up. I got my website up and I am trying to develop it. So I do want you all to support it. That's going to be something. Your flyer will be put on my website because I want people to know that they have a general place that they can go to and start looking for different information to be put up. I know we put a lot of stuff on Facebook, but we got people like you. You're a young person and you're not on Facebook. A lot of people don't want to go to, I mean, it's okay. Some people use it, but there is trash and junk, and as we say, the thumb thuggers and all that kind of stuff. They call them on there. But it's people who keep up confusion on it. But there's also a lot of good, great, positive things that is on Facebook. But I can just honestly tell you, there's been days that I haven't even gotten a chance to get on, and I thought I was on Facebook an awful lot. But I may pop in and pop off because I'm so busy doing something else. I don't have time. But to look for something, like it was a lot of events last week. I'll just give the example. There was a lot of things around Juneteenth that when by the time I found out it was going on, it was already happening or it had already happened. So if we start having some place that we could generally just look at and say, hey, I wonder what's going on this week, what's on the community calendar, let
Mm-hmm.
me just look and see. So it's a work in progress. Just know I do need help with it, but it is a work in progress, and I want people to start being aware. But your program starts in July. The last day to register is June the 30th. So y'all please get your children registered. Another question that I had
Mm-hmm.
was, we had some youth that was like not quite 13. They were like 12, 11. And I was like, well, what I suggested to them was this. I don't know what it is that they can do, but that they make contact with you. Who knows what might birth out of them inquiring, because it was quite a few, people was looking for youth programs for the summer. What can I get my children involved in? And we do. I mean, for every child that you have that might not be mature, you got a couple of them that are mature enough to be able to handle and do some different responsibilities. This program is definitely for 13 to 19-year olds. There hopefully there's some other stuff that's available out there. One other aspect I did want to ask you concerning the program. And I remember the first year you did it, you said, Ma, go home and do some soil sampling. Give me some soil. And I was like, okay, where you want me to dig? You had me dig close to the street because you get a lot of lead from the cars. And that was the biggest issue at that time was lead. That's what we mainly was looking at. So you had like lead that come out of the from the fumes from the cars and things. Even though most of the gasoline that says unleaded, there might be traces of lead still in the
No,
gasoline.
um,
Okay.
no, not necessarily. Yeah, so the exhaust and fumes, there can be like metals and things like that come
Okay.
through the car,
Okay.
and can come out of the exhaust. Gasoline is now unleaded, right? And so you shouldn't have issues coming from that. But when people, I have had students who talked about like, they had a old stump in the backyard and someone doused it in gasoline a while ago, like a parent or a grandparent, and they set a fire and you can still see the traces of that in the soil. So like they had this one spot in their yard. They took like 5 samples from their yard, and that one spot in their yard had high levels of lead, but the rest of it were at safe levels. And so yeah, so you can
Wow.
have things like that show up, which is why it's so important to have multiple people out there testing, right? Because one sample doesn't help us to understand truly where the pollution is.
Right. And then you had a sample, had me sampling like close to the house.
Because old paint, right? A lot of houses in Flint are much older, and so we know at one point, right? Paint was lead based, and so we talk about that and like how when youth go to rent their first place, you know, they might get a the forms to say like acknowledging that there's lead based paint in the building and
Right.
why it's important and how that can, you know, you don't want the animals or young kids eating the paint chips, and that exposure, you don't want to disturb it. And so that could also be true for the outside of an older home. And so getting what we call the drip line, which is right along where the like the gutters, yeah, and right at the edge of where your roof line is, where the water rolls off of the roof, that is also an important place to, or can help us to understand if there's lead contamination coming off of the
Okay.
house.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I was just was remembering, and I was learning from you. Then getting the soil off the top, and then digging deep to get the deeper to get the soil like several inches. It could be a difference. I just remember that with when we were testing the water, they were like, let the water run for a few seconds, and like they wanted you to catch the water when it first run out. That was one of the samples, and then they wanted the water to run a little bit, and then take another sample because sometimes the sediments will come out early, right when you first take the water out, and then later on you have good clean water. So they were testing both the initial first thing in the morning, and then of course letting it run a little bit. So I knew that there was like a difference in the water. And I remember a friend of mine telling me, he was a civil engineer. He actually told me, he said, you know, you might test uh, at 100 parts per billion today, and then later on tonight test at zero, because it depends on pieces of parts of the lead could break off into the water, so it can make a difference in the sampling of the water and the time of day that you actually sample. How much water are you actually using? Which a lot of us don't understand. Like, you living in an area where there's a lot of abandoned houses, there's a lot more water sitting settled in those pipes, making your lead levels be higher in your water, because we still know that there's still lead and things in the water. We can still tell there's a lot of other stuff. I can always tell when my whole house filtration system, I can always tell when it's getting old, because I start to getting rashes and irritated skin. Then I say, okay, it's time to change the filters. We change the filters, boom, we back to normal again. But we know that too. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, but that's right. Like the samples can change, and water is a little different when we talk about like our drinking water and
Mm-hmm.
what's coming out of the tap is a little bit different than the soil, right?
Right.
When lead and other heavy metals get in the soil doesn't move the same way that water does, right? And like in the pipes we're pumping it through, right? So like having those two points or multiple points of testing from the same water source is important, because like you said, like there could be things breaking off into it. The time of day can impact that, how long the water's been sitting versus has it been flowing. All those different things can come into play. With the soil, though, typically you don't see as much movement of the soil. The reason we have you dig down so far is because you can see if there's new lead being introduced or if it has been there for a while, right? By digging down that deep, because we talked a little bit about that. Is like soil is stratified, right? Like this layer of soil, and then you build up on top of it. So what's there, it sort of stays still as the layers build up on top.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are finding high levels of pollution in the topsoil, but not in the depth soil, that means that some new thing was introduced that caused that pollution to happen, right? Or it suggests that. And then if you find something, though, deeper down, but not at the top, right? Like that may be signs that something used to be there. Like, for example, I talk a lot about the California programs because they have a lot of data. But there were some students who they in the topsoil they had found some evidence of contamination, right? And they began to dig deeper down and found that it was just like off the charts polluted. And come to find out, there had once been a battery factory at that site, and they had turned it into a playground. Like they had closed the battery. I mean, it was like over the course of like decades and decades, but they had shut this battery plant down, and then they eventually the same lot was turned into a playground. And so they, while they were able to see some evidence of the lead and some other harmful metals in the topsoil, it was like it was kind of teetering on that line, right? Like it was like it's high, but it's not technically over the limit yet. But then when they dug deeper, it was just like I mean, like you're seeing over 1,000 parts per million, which for lead like is really wild. Like the federal EPA says anything over 400 parts per million is something that needs to be intervened. But and the states also have their own laws. Where in California it's 80, in Massachusetts it's 200, and but Michigan follows the federal EPA, which is 400. So so there's all these different factors, and we go through all of that in our program so that you can really understand that like no amount of lead is good for you, but there are regulations put into place, and we kind of begin to dig in and explore why.
Okay. So one of the last questions, because I know we're getting close on time. We didn't think we'd go this long, but we're doing good. One of the last questions and things, the overall impact, because right now we're doing cancer cluster studies here in Flint. There's a lot of things, like we just had something on the 19th on Juneteenth down at the Broom Center, where you had people from different cancer organizations that was there. So, like they were doing kidney screening to see if, what was in the urine, to see if it warrants you going and getting further testing and checking. Some of the things I didn't realize that they checked the kidneys in a different way that they did. I always just knew that about the pyelogram. They looking in there. You think about tumors, but there's other ways that they can check it to see if they need to go in there, like through the blood and through the urine. But they had other organizations. Then they had the American Cancer Society, was just general. But then they had, like I said, they had the different types of cancers. They had their organizations. They're passing out information to make you aware. Now, a lot of that we're actually, I won't say trying, but we know it's directly connected to what we eat, what we consume: air, food, water. Those are the things that we're consuming that's causing the cancer. Um, I know you talked about testing for arsenic
Mm-hmm.
and lead in the soil and a
Mm-hmm.
few other things, copper levels. What are they in relationship to cancer? Do you have that data there? Do you have any information? We know that there's some connections, but do you have any, we're not really clear exactly what how you just know something is there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any connections to knowing any of that kind of stuff, or is any of that related to anything that you're doing?
So, I mean, like you can go online anywhere and find, like what are the impacts of, arsenic exposure and lead exposure and all that to the body, right? And I feel like the people of Flint are very well versed in what lead can do to the human body, right?
Yeah.
Um, and but our data, we don't have we don't collect any kind of data that could be causal. Like we can't say that, oh, we see, that there were 3 soil samples from this park that came back high, all the kids at this park are, could have been harmed or whatever, right? Like we don't collect enough different types of data to be able to do that, or to be able to triangulate anything. What we're doing is really creating kind of a baseline for awareness and to start the conversation. So this is sort of like step one of the process, right? Where understanding if there is pollution in the soil, if this could be a source of harm, then then we have a map, right? Like when the youth are collecting this data, we can understand if there are places around the city that are causing this, and maybe can help us to understand if there are health records that are coming back for people who have been exposed to that site or who live in that area. May be able to help draw some lines and some connections, or may just be able to rule out, right, that like we're not seeing pollution in the soil there, so like it must be connected to something else, right?
Right.
um and so yeah, so the data that we have youth collect, we can't say whether it's causing harm. I do think that like them learning how to interact with the soil that might potentially be contaminated, when they're collecting the samples, like we go through and teach them, about like, removing your shoes when you come into a house, how that can be beneficial. We talk to them about regularly washing your hands. It feels crazy sometimes when I talk to people about washing their hands in 2024, right after living through the COVID-19 shutdowns and the pandemic and all the other things, right? It's like, wash your hands. That's the number one thing you can do to keep yourself like, I mean, that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Right, right, right.
And then there's many other things. There's getting your soil tested and becoming aware of where there's contaminants, when you're working outside, working with gloves, and being aware of the dust and things like that. So there's a number of ways to protect yourself from soil pollution, but we do want to make sure, right, that we're understanding where there is a problem. And yeah, but unfortunately, this is stage one. We're not at a place to be able to say anything is causal for health concerns.
Okay, gotcha. So we're gonna get ready to close ourselves out, but I want you to be able to have some closing words and comments for us. Of course, number one, go on the site. No matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, please go on the site and at least look and see, because there might be something there that might spark your interest, or you might know somebody who can register for that program. If you have any questions, definitely call you. I know that. And I'll have Mickey, if you can, put her flyer back up on there, and then it's going to be in the comments also. We'll put it in the comments. So make sure that you all do reach out, copy her card, do all of that. But I want you to give us some closing words before I go into all of our general announcements.
Yeah. I truly believe that awareness is the first step. It is key. And begin to educate ourselves and understand how all these different systems are working together around us. And I really enjoy working with the young people who come into my program, and to see them be inspired and fired up. Even if science isn't a thing, or environmentalism isn't a thing that you're really into, even if activism is something you've never tried, I still highly encourage folks to sign up for the program, because you'll see, we begin to see how things can translate across different interests and different things. And the July session is aimed at 13 through 19-year-olds. You said there are a few folks who might be a little bit younger. I'd love for them to still reach out, and we can find out if it's a good fit for them or not. So we are still accepting the applications for folks to come in. We will have another session that will be more of an after school online program with a couple of days in person. That'll be happening in September as well. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm in the process of trying to get some additional funding to do this kind of work more with adults, specifically young adults from 20 to 28. So if folks are interested at all, I would still highly encourage y'all to reach out, and maybe we can think about how they can learn some more things from our program. And my last call to outreach is to the whole Flint community. If you are interested in having your soil tested, if you are interested in having our young folks come out and talk to you, or to a group of folks, it could be a family barbecue you want them to come and talk at. It could be, like I said, a church congregation or a neighborhood hub or any other group of folks. We love to be able to have the young people come out and share. They like to be able to talk and think about what they've learned in more detail. So yeah, please reach out to us. The website is lodestaredu.org. There's a place to contact us there. The applications are there under our current programs page for any youth interested, and get signed up.
Scan this QR code, and I'm gonna also put the card and the information is gonna be in our chats. So please look at it. I'll be posting them up on Facebook, on my Facebook page also as well. We'll be making sure that it's on my website, Audrey for Flint as well too. I do appreciate you coming up. I know getting up in the mornings is rough.
Yeah, I know you know me my whole life. I am not a morning person, but
She was my star child. They call him Star Child. Remember that we was talking about that star child? She was the one in the family that stayed up all night long and slept through part of the day. She even while she was in school, she
yeah.
would be half asleep, but she could answer the questions and was an honor student. So long as she was getting the good grades and could tell us what it was she was learning, she learned kind of like me, half dozing, but you can hear everything going on around you. So I had no problems with that. I'm like, she'll be okay in school. Let her go on here, whatever she do. 12 midnight, what you doing? She texting from her room, 1 o'clock in the morning. You got to get up in the morning, go to sleep, little girl, go to sleep. So, but anyway, so alrighty, as we get ready to close out, y'all know me, we got to do that rundown. But Mickey know he got to be ready to help me if I need help. Monday through Friday, we got 9 to 11. We got the bump. You could come on and bump with Mickey Jordan and Winters Hall. They give you the news that you can use. They give you the updates on everything going around. We got city council meeting tomorrow, so you know Tuesday gonna be a good day. Tomorrow gonna be a good day because they're gonna be telling you what's coming up and what's on the agenda, so you could come and tune in to to the bump. That's Monday through Friday, 9 to 11. On Wednesday at 12 noon, you got Trevor. It's just Trevor by itself. Trevor and Clack or
Hold on,
Trevor?
Trevor and Clack.
Trevor and Clack. You got Trevor and Clack on Wednesday at 12 noon. On Thursday, after the bump, you got 6 o'clock in the evening. You got Winters Hall show. She comes back, like I say, with those surprise guests. You never know who she's coming on with till it's getting close to time. Friday is the heavy day. It's busy all day. It's a bump day all day on Friday. 9 to 11, you got the bump. At 12 noon, you got, there's at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, you got Trevor Rant. At 5 o'clock, you got Carol with the community conversation. You got it right after Carol, about 6:10, you got Winters, and you got Anna from the DMV with Sister Circle. Then you have Ashley Rich on at 8 o'clock, giving you the Hollywood moments, giving you news from the Hollywood stars and our movie stars, our entertainers, and what's going on in Hollywood. On Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, you got beautiful Tanya Burns, Councilwoman 6th Ward. She comes on and give you an update. And then once again on Sundays at 5, you got me again. Like to talk about what we got going on in the community this week. This week, last week was impactful because we had a lot of stuff going on with Juneteenth. We had a lot of different activities. And if you haven't gotten a chance to see any parts of the parade, please go back and visit 810 News Media Group on social media because they did put it up on their social media page and some other people did stream it too. But it was a beautiful event. And I believe it's on not only just on Facebook, it's on YouTube also. So please go back there, like, share, and subscribe to 810 News Media Group. Donate, please, to Cash Out to Independent Podcasting. That's what help keeps us up and going at $8 810 News Media Group. Just like to invite you out to our mosque meetings every Sunday at 11 a.m. If you can't make it out at 11 a.m., you could tune in to noi.org. Or if you're in one of your cities, you can look out and we can find a place that's in your city that you can go out to. Um, on on Wednesdays and Fridays, we have study group self-improvement at 7:30 from 7:30 to 9. We're located here in Flint at 1417 Stevenson. My understanding is this Friday, I think Brother Nuri Muhammad will be here in town. I did see a flyer circulating, and I think that's what he's going to be doing on this Friday. Brother Nuri, if you have never seen Brother Nuri before, He is so impactful. He loves to teach the children. Please come out, support, see him on Friday. I'll just say this Wednesday, I know St. Mark's will be doing their food giveaway because they switched it from last week because it was Juneteenth. And I think they told me that it will be Wednesday on the 26th. They start at 9 o'clock. People be out there lining up, girl. Y'all, it be 7 o'clock in the morning. Those people be in line. I'll be leaving to go to work and the line already be down around past. I think is that Martin School? The King School around there, they be around the corner. So y'all come out, see us out there passing out the food. They always have great stuff that they give out. I think I said everything, didn't I, Mickey? I didn't forget anything, did I?
Yes, you did.
I,
You said
I gave
everything.
I think I said everything. I think the only meeting we have coming up this week is just
The one
city
on Monday
council.
because they going on break.
Just the city council, right? Because they'll be on break, so they won't be back until mid July. But please come out and support. You see a lot of different things that's going on. Be up, tune in the morning, so that way you can get a copy or know what's going on with the agenda that's already set. So we want to see you all then. Any parting words from you, Mickey? Any other parting words from you, Ajane? Just
No.
please check out the flyer and please call her. I thank you all. Do something good for yourself this week. Go out, get them nails, toes done. All righty. Thank you. Thank you once again, Mickey, for always. He always the greatest producer in the world, Facely Sprocket. Mickey Jordan. All right. Thanks. Y'all have a good week.